It's 1964, Portland, Oregon. Phil Knight is a 26-year-old accountant who hates his job. But this guy has a dream that sounds absolutely insane. He wants to import high-quality running shoes from Japan and sell them in America. Because he was a middle-distance runner in college, and he knew American running shoes were garbage. That time, 1964, the entire athletic shoe market is dominated by Adidas and Puma from Germany. The idea that some random accountant from Oregon could compete. People thought he was delusional. Phil had $300 in his pocket. That's it. That's the seed money for what would become Nike. He partners with his old track coach, Bill Bowerman, who's obsessed with making better running shoes. Bowerman is the kind of crazy that would literally destroy his wife's waffle iron to create better shoe treads. So they split that $300, order their first batch of Japanese tigers running shoes, and start selling them out of the trunk of Phil's car at track meets. No store, no branding, just two guys hustling shoes like they're selling mixtapes. And you know what? It actually starts working. 1965, Phil called it Blue Ribbon Sports, was making over $20,000 a year. Not bad for a car trunk operation. Bowerman, meanwhile, kept experimenting. He cut soles, tested materials, and made custom pairs for athletes. Then one day, Bowerman invented something revolutionary, the Waffle sole. Yep. He poured rubber into his wife's waffle iron and created a sole that gripped better, weighed less, and gave more traction. That silly kitchen experiment would later shape the future of running shoes. Fast forward to 1971. Phil's company is making about $300,000 a year. Not bad, right? But here's the problem. They're about to lose everything. The Japanese manufacturer Onitsuka Tiger they've been working with, they're about to cut them off and start working with someone else. Phil realizes he needs to create his own shoe brand, manufacture his own shoes, and do it fast. But there's one massive problem. He needs a logo, a brand identity, something that could compete with the Adidas stripes. And he needs it in weeks, not months. So Phil does what any desperate entrepreneur does. He reaches out to Portland State University and asks if they have any design students looking for freelance work. Carolyn Davidson, a 28-year-old graphic design student who's barely scraping by. She's juggling classes, freelance work, and trying to survive on basically nothing. When Phil approaches her in the hallway, yeah, he literally just walked up to her at school. She says yes immediately. Because she needs the money, $2 per hour. That's what Phil offers her. In today's money, that's about $15 an hour. Not great, but when you're broke, you take what you can get. Phil gives Carolyn the brief. He wants something that conveys motion, something that looks fast, something that could go on the side of a shoe and be recognized instantly. It needs to be done in a few weeks because we're about to lose our entire business. Zero pressure, right? Carolyn started researching, sketching. She's looking at Greek mythology because Phil mentioned he wanted to call the company Nike after the Greek goddess of victory. She creates dozens of designs, wings, stripes, abstract shapes, and then she draws this simple curved checkmark thing. She called it a swoosh because that's the sound of movement, the sound of speed, the sound of an athlete passing by with crazy speed. Phil looks at the swoosh and says, "I don't love it, but it'll grow on me." That's it. That's the approval. Not, "This is genius." Not, "This is going to change the world." Just, "It'll grow on me." And Carolyn, she wasn't confident either. Years later, she admitted she thought it was just okay. Sometimes the things that change the world don't feel revolutionary when you're creating them. They feel average, normal, just okay. Now, this is the most iconic logo in sports history. Carolyn finishes the work. She spent about 17 and a half hours designing the swoosh and working on the Nike branding. Phil cuts her a check for $35 for the logo that would eventually be valued at $26 billion on its own. Just the logo. And here's what's even crazier. Carolyn continues doing freelance work for Nike for years after this. She designs their first few advertising campaigns. She creates marketing materials. She becomes a crucial part of their early branding. 1972, they officially become Nike and launch with the Swoosh. 1974, the Waffle trainer becomes the best-selling training shoe in America. 1979, Nike controls 50% of the US running shoe market. And through all of this, Phil Knight never forgets about Carolyn. September 1983, Nike is about to go public on the stock market. The company is now worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Phil Knight calls Carolyn into his office. She has no idea what's coming. Phil hands her a diamond ring shaped like a swoosh in an envelope. Inside that envelope, shares of Nike stock. A lot of shares. The exact number has never been publicly disclosed, but reports suggest it was approximately 500 shares. When she received them, they were worth around $150,000. Today, those shares would be worth over $1 million thanks to stock splits and growth. But it's not really about the money. It's about what Phil said to her. This is for everything you've done for us over the years. You've been a part of this from the beginning, and you deserve to benefit from where we've gone. Carolyn cried, and honestly, that's the most human moment in this entire empire-building story. Because here's what most people miss about building something big. Because here's the thing about Phil. Say what you want about that initial $35 payment, but the man understood loyalty. All right, you might think I try to tell you a story about a designer who finally got paid. No. This is a masterclass in how empires are actually built. Start before you're ready. Phil Knight didn't wait until he had $1 million. He didn't wait until he had the perfect business plan. He had $300 and a crazy idea, and he just started. How many of you are sitting on an idea right now, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for more money, more time, more skills? Stop waiting. The perfect moment doesn't exist. 2, it's not about the logo. The swoosh is iconic now, but it wasn't magic from day one. Phil made it iconic through relentless marketing, athlete partnerships, and building products people actually loved. 3, reward loyalty. Phil didn't have to give Carolyn those shares. Legally, he owed her nothing beyond that $35, but he understood something crucial. The people who believe in you when you're nobody, they're the ones who help you become somebody. Take care of them. So here's my challenge to you watching right now. What's your $300? What's the idea you keep putting off? What's the empire you could build if you just started? Maybe you won't build the next Nike, but maybe you'll build something that changes your life, something that provides for your family, something that gives you freedom. If this story inspired you, smash that like button. Subscribe because we break down empire-building stories like this every single week. And drop a comment telling me what's stopping you from starting today.